What's going on, everybody? Lethal One up here, and guys, this is going to be kind of my review, but more or less my thoughts, right, and my feelings on how I felt towards Kena Bridge of Spirits. Just got done playing the game, and I just gotta say, I like I said it back in my first impressions, it not only just met my expectations, but it way surpassed what I thought it was going to be. Definitely tons of things, in fact, the majority of things that I liked, maybe some few things that I didn't dislike. So let's go ahead and jump into this. But if you guys haven't already, like this video, if you guys enjoy at the very end, and don't forget to go and subscribe to the channel if you just like the channel, you like me, you want to go support, please go ahead and do that. But okay, I'm done talking. Just as a reminder, there's gonna be some spoilery content in here, so keep that in mind if you haven't played the game yet, or if you're still playing the game, there is a little bit of spoiler content. So make sure if anything, you don't want to spoil nothing, leave, come back, and then watch it when you're done. But here are my thoughts, and I think I'm gonna ask the overall question of was this worth the price of the game? Right, that $40 price tag. So here's my thoughts about it. Enjoy. All right, so let's go ahead and start off with the stuff that I did like, and one of which is the story. Now, I've seen a lot of people say they didn't like the story. They felt that it was weak and it was so pretty much, you've seen this everywhere. I mean, maybe it's just me, but for my personal take, this isn't something that I feel like I see too much of. I mean, I'm sure if you play some type of like demon game or something that's gonna, talk about story, not story, but talk about souls and like the afterlife and whatnot. So I guess if you play stuff like that, sure. But for me, I did like that story. I did like the, the idea of Kena being a spirit guide, and she's doing her job to, help these troubled souls kind of, get past and move on to the next part of their, wherever souls go next. And so I really like the idea. In fact, the idea of her even crossing into, like, I guess you could say, like, that other world and then crossing back into the real world, I thought this was just really cool to see something like that. Kind of seeing the fact that all these smaller stories, right? Taro, Adira, Toshi, and how, it kind of does go back to her own story, right? With her own struggle, especially with her father, and how it kind of sets up to the next game. It's really exciting. In fact, I kind of mentioned really briefly there, right? The other stories that they had. Some people might not like the fact that it wasn't so much about her, more or less. It was very small about her own story, her own struggle, and kind of more about these other stories. But for me personally, I enjoyed all the other stories. My favorite one's probably Taro, right? The reuniting of the siblings, right? Seeing the reasoning behind everything. I absolutely love that. And so for me, I really did enjoy the story. The next thing I kind of want to jump into is some of the combat, but the things I liked a lot is that they gave a good combat weapon variety. For an indie game, I didn't think it was the worst. Of course, this isn't going to have like so much in comparison to, what did I say before, right? I think I said like a Ratchet and Clank. I don't think I've ever made the obvious comparison, and that was like Zelda, and all the different weapons you get to have from there. So for me though, for an indie, for what this was, I like that there was just more options than just the staff. I like the fact that that staff became a bow, right? You were also able to get some bombs. And again, it wasn't the most, but for what it was, for that price that it was too, I thought it was a good chunk of different types of weapons and then abilities that came with them. The other thing I have here is talking about the DualSense. Did the DualSense controller for the PS5 actually get used for the PS5 version? And it did. 100% it did. Now, I might be missing some things, but the stuff that obviously right on top of my head that I can remember and I can recall, that was the adaptive triggers. You definitely felt that with the use of doing some heavy attacks. When you were pulling back that bowstring, you can definitely feel it there as well. Sometimes even when you were traversing throughout the different worlds, you can feel that in the environments that you were stepping in. Even if you're doing some of the actual abilities, the rod abilities, you can definitely feel it there as well, those adaptive triggers. The other thing I had too was, you definitely felt some haptic feedback. Especially, I thought the coolest way that they kind of did it was the fact that when you were when you were near a hidden rod, it would vibrate. And so it was a good way to kind of indicate that, oh, there's actually something, there's a rod near me, a hidden rod near me. I just gotta find it and then figure out how to unlock it. And so that was something where I was like, okay, very cool. They did make sure that they utilized the DualSense controller to some capacity, and I absolutely love that. The next thing I have is the characters. And honestly, along with the characters, I just love the overall designs too. And I kind of can tie this back into the story, right? I liked the designs of all the characters. They fit like that fantasy forest world, and so I thought that was really well done, especially some of the intricate details. And for example, I love Taro, and I love the fact that if you played through all of Taro's story, when you got to the very end, right, his corrupted spirit, you got to see, Taro in the form of like a wolf. And so I thought that was so symbolic of just like him and his family and what he was doing. Same thing with Adira. You saw Adira have the hammer and everything. back over to that tower, right, and how her story and how it meshes in with the the reason of her not only her overall design when she wasn't in that corrupted spirit form, but also just the way she looked too, right? She was a strong character. She was doing a lot, especially when she was building the tower, right, for Hana and everything. And again, I just loved the characters. I loved all their stories. To be honest though, this could be something that I could put into my dislike section, but I'll just mention it here. I don't know why I didn't feel so closely with Toshi, even though I know what he wanted to do. I understood why he, wanted to get the power for his village. I totally get it. It just didn't hit me as hard as I think Taro and Adira's. But regardless though, again, the point was I like the characters' designs and I like the overall characters. I like how they were. I feel like it just matched the stories. Everything fit so well together. Obviously, the biggest one, right, is Kana herself. I loved her character design as well. And I thought she was a cool character. I felt like you didn't get to see too much of it. It was so important on the objective of like, saving this soul, right? Saving this soul, saving this soul. I did feel like you didn't get to see too much of her overall story. But again, I guess that kind of makes sense because like I feel like the game was ending in a way that it's going to possibly, God forbid, hopefully, praying here that we're going to get more story, right? We're going to get a sequel at some point. But yeah, I felt like, for her character, I wish I could have gotten more about her. But, obviously, if I talked about her design, I thought it was cool. The spirit, as a spirit guide, right, with the staff, I thought, she looked cool. Everything looked cool about her. But yeah, I'm definitely curious to know more about her. I think I'd like her character more if I got to just learn a little bit more about her. But you did get glimpses, right? The story of her father, and you got some stuff. But, I think it's going to segue into more things, hopefully, in the future. Now, the next thing I want to talk about, I guess, it's just the overall map and the environments and how did I kind of feel about it. And I have to say, I love the village. I like the idea of just restoring it from its corruption and bringing it back to, its former self. I like that it kind of served as like the hub, if you can. Pretty much the hub that then branched off into the different territories, right, for the different spirits that you saved. I got to say, the map was much bigger than I honestly thought it was going to be. So I thought that was really cool to see how big that they opened up this map. I said back in my first impressions, I think this is going to be like an open world kind of game. I wasn't sure to what degree, or maybe it was just going to have some just big maps, but it's open world. The idea that they even brought in fast traveling, yeah, this is a straight up an open world kind of game. But aside from that, I love the different variations of the maps, right? Some were obviously in the forest. I mean, it pretty much all took place in the forest, but some places it was dark. Some places it was very vibrant and colorful. There was some waterfall in some places. There were some icy places. It was a bit all over the place. And so I really like the fact that there was such diversity in the different environments and the different maps that they gave. So I thought that was really well done. The next part I want to jump into is some of like the enemies and the boss, and then sometimes, and kind of just like, I guess, overall the designs as well. I want to say that I really love that there was a variation in enemies. There were some enemies that were flying. There were some that were even crawling. And then there were just some that was just, coming up to you toe to toe. And some had shields. Some were passive, right? Some were range based. And then the others were pretty much just aggressive, right? They would attack you directly. So again, I like the fact that there was different kinds of enemies. They weren't all the same enemy, right? They just didn't come up to you and attack you the same way. Maybe just slightly different. Now you can probably complain or make the complaint that, the majority of them maybe looked a little bit similar to each other, right? They had that corrupted, dead look to them. And for me personally, again, I like the designs, and I felt like the designs were different enough, but more than just the design itself, but the fact that there was just different types of enemies, and that's what I liked a lot about it. And what was cool too was I like that each of the enemies, a lot of them had their own pattern of attacks. They weren't all the same type. Especially the ones that were kind of like those pseudo boss types. There was that cool mage one, right, that you had to be careful. Some of them would teleport from different sides of the maps. There was the big brute-like enemies that were having like big weapons that could either throw them or do something with them. The fact that they tied in the final bosses for each segment, like I mentioned before in the story, I thought that was really cool and really well done. Like Taro, with the wolf, and I said Adira with that cool hammer, power suit looking armor. Again, I just really like the fact that how they did the enemy designs in this game. It was really well done in my opinion. Jumping into the next one, I want to go ahead and talk about level design. For me, the adventure and exploration aspect was so well done. I thought the platforming, which I think I'm going to talk a bit more about that, as some of it I disliked, but again, I didn't dislike all of it. The fact that I have it in my dislikes is for a certain reason, but the fact that there was platforming, right? There was jumping around from certain platforms to platforms. Basically, I did like that at the very basic of what it was. I just want to say that it was enjoyable, like the use of having like the flowers and using the bow to use the to pretty much hit the flower to be able to get to certain platforms. There was some shimming that was involved. I did like that. Certain areas you had to use your bombs to create a path. I thought that was really cool. Again, there was a good little variety in the different types of like the way the levels were created. I thought that was really cool. There was even cool little pockets in some of these maps that just had puzzles to solve. There was ways that you could unlock some shortcuts to get access to previously reached areas. I thought that was really well done. They did a cool thing where sometimes you could find treasure chests, and some of these treasure chests would actually activate a challenge where you defeat so many enemies in a time limit. I thought that was really cool. There was even some archery challenges that were also tossed in there. And like I said before, they implemented fast travel. When you found these waypoints, you unlock them, it would take you back to a previous place. Again, all of that I thought was really well done, and it made me enjoy the different levels that they did have. So I thought, again, overall, it was really well done. And then again, I kind of just have, how was like the graphics in my opinion, right? The overall designing, the artwork I thought it was like literally Pixar quality stuff. It was beautiful. The animations, including the cutscenes and even the combat animations, were just gorgeous. I loved everything about it. I thought it was so good. And then to kind of jump into the next one, right? Music soundtrack. I love the music. I think my favorite was in the end when you were fighting the final boss. I thought that was so good. The music that they were playing there, and every music that they did have, every soundtrack that they incorporated was executed, I think, in really good parts, right? If it was just exploring the map, nice subtle music to kind of go to, but when you get into those really intense boss fights, I thought the soundtracks were really good, right? Adrenaline pumping. I was getting really into it, and it was getting really intense. So I thought everything between like the graphic overall and soundtrack music was just really good. Now, when I say does this have replayability? 100%, I would say it does. Exploring, that's what I loved the most. I thought that was so good, right? Discovering stuff that maybe you missed the first time, you want to go back and do it again. If you beat it on hard difficulty like I did, by the way, hard difficulty is hard. Do not sleep on this game to think that, oh, it's not challenging. I was told even on normal difficulty, the game was pretty challenging. And I can tell you guys right now, my experience playing on hard was definitely difficult. And once you beat it on hard, you even unlock master difficulty. And I'm not sure if you also can get it from doing it on normal. Not 100% on that, but I can tell you I beat the game on hard and I unlocked the master difficulty. So replayability, I think it's totally there, right? If it's not exploring, it's going back and trying it on a different difficulty. So I gotta say yes to replayability. Challenging, I pretty much answered my own question with replayability. There's definitely some challenging aspects in there, especially I would say if you're playing it on hard, when the enemies hit you, they hit you hard. You lose a lot of life. And so it's definitely, like I said, it's definitely challenging. And I think it only gets challenging over time because towards the end, you've really had to watch out for the patterns for a lot of the boss fights because it gets really difficult. And now just the things that I said that I wanted to go back into as stuff that I disliked. I gave you a lot of likes because there's just so much I enjoyed with this game. Disliking, this goes back to when I talked about the platforming a little bit. Now, I thought, again, the platform was pretty cool. My favorite thing, right, was definitely probably using the different tools, right, the different weapons and stuff to get you to different parts of the map. But for me personally, I didn't like the jumping. The double jumping specifically, there was like no verticality to get forward. I feel like you just went straight up. And so sometimes I just made it onto a platform, or I would die because I missed a platform because I didn't time my jump good. But I just didn't like the feeling of like the double jumps, in my opinion. The other one that I had for a dislike was the combat. I felt like the basic combat for mostly like the basic combos, after a while, it kind of just got a little bit boring and dull. I kind of wish that there was more variation with like the light attacks, especially when you got into the skill tree. Maybe that's even another thing that I might say I disliked a little bit, was that I wish the skill tree was a bit more expansive. I felt like it gave you a lot of different variations, a lot of cool uses with the heavy attack, but not much with the light attack. And so I guess that's something that I'd wish maybe in the sequel that that's something that they'd work on. But you know, again, aside from all that though, I think this is an indie game at that. So that's why I don't want to get too into it really, because this isn't like a AAA game where I'm like, okay, wow, for AAA, you should have probably had certain things, because this is an indie and this is a game that was $40. And so I can't complain that much. But of course, if I had to have some dislikes, it'd probably be those two for the most part. But at the end of the day, what is the question I want to ask? Was it worth $40? Hell yes. 1000%. I believe this is worth $40. What does suck though was that it did release with the digital option only. But what's cool though is that it does come with the PS4 and PS5 version. I did see that they are going to be doing a physical release, so that is something that if you're thinking about it and you're more of a physical person, they are going to be doing a physical release. They did work with the company, I forget the company's name, but there will be a physical release releasing at some point. I think for $40 though for digital for both the PS4 and PS5 versions, that is such a steal of a deal. This game is beautiful, it's gorgeous, and it was a lot of fun overall. I think this was such a fun game, and again, you're gonna enjoy it, especially for $40. I can't get away from the fact that for $40, this game was a steal. So guys, thank you for watching. Again, give it a shot. Kena Bridge of Spirits was such a phenomenal game. I absolutely enjoyed it. If you liked this video, go ahead and give it a like. And if you enjoyed the content, why don't you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys for watching. I'm Lethal1Up, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.